Hello guys, and welcome to our tutorial on an intro to Android Studio. And I'm going to be guiding you through this tutorial in which we're going to learn how to use Android Studio to build Android apps in just over an hour. Okay, there's only about 60 to 70 minutes of content, but we'll teach you all you need to know to get started. Now, what is this tutorial all about, and how can we condense everything into just an hour? Well, we're going to be exploring particularly the basics of how to use Android Studio, and we're going to divide this into three major topics. We'll first explore the interface to understand the software that we'll be working with. This is just getting to know Android Studio itself. Then we'll take a look at how to set up page layouts and write code to make these page layouts responsive to user interactions. Finally, we'll work on running and debugging applications, also setting up the emulator at this point as well. Now, who should be taking this tutorial? Well, if you want to learn anything about building Android apps using Kotlin in particular, then this tutorial is for you, especially if you want to learn it quickly, as like I said, we'll be covering everything in just over an hour. If you already have a lot of experience using Android Studio, I wouldn't recommend this tutorial for you, as this is pretty basic. We're going to be exploring everything from a complete beginner's standpoint. All you really need for this tutorial is a computer and of course a willingness to learn new things. You don't have to be particularly tech savvy, as like I said, we'll be covering everything in a step-by-step process starting at the very beginning. Now keep in mind throughout I'm going to be using a Mac, so if you are using a PC, that is fine. Android Studio can run perfectly well on PCs as well, but the interface will look a little different, okay? So just a heads up. Now, which specific topics are we going to be covering and in which order? We'll first focus on downloading and installing Android Studio. Obviously, we need to get our hands on that software. Then we'll explore Android Studio's interface, just take a look at the different windows, where to find the pieces that we need to make Android Studio functional. Then we'll get to know Android Studio's file hierarchy, where to find the files we need, how it's all stored, and which files do exactly what for our project. Next, we'll explore layout and activity files in particular and the relationship between these. Then we'll work on setting up an emulator or an Android virtual device. After this, we'll talk about how to implement interactivity and we'll actually run our very first project. And finally, we'll set up the debugger and learn how to use that to find errors within our code. Now, keep in mind, again, this is only 60 to 70 minutes, so I can't cover every topic that there is out there. I would love to spend a lot more time on this tutorial, but the purpose is to get you up to speed with the basics and out there developing Android apps as quickly as you possibly can. Once you finish with this tutorial, feel free to move on to our next ones, such as an intro to Kotlin, or an intro to Java, or just generally an intro to Android development using those specific languages. In those tutorials, we go into language basics a little better, or in a little more in depth, and also talk about how to build responsive applications. But let's first focus on the tutorial at hand. What I'd like you to do is just get a new browser started, and then we're going to show you how and where to download Android Studio. Again, thanks so much for watching this tutorial and for taking it. I really appreciate the support. Hope you guys enjoy it and can learn a lot about Android Studio.